here at the University of Hull. Now I can see we've got a lot of people logging in. So what we will do is we'll just wait a moment or so for people to get logged in, and then I will be able to hand over to my colleagues in our international engagement and compliance team. We'll just give it a moment or so. And while we do that, I would like to say that if you do have any questions at all today for the visa team, please do feel free to send those in either via the Q&A or through the chat. It might be a little bit easier to do that through the Q&A button. What we will aim to do is answer as many of them throughout the webinar as we can do. So please do look out for our answers. And I do know that Olga and John are fantastic, and they often will see a question in the chat and be able to answer it there and then as well during the recording too. So please do feel free to send those in. I will also say that we will record today's webinar, so please do look out in the next few weeks for the webinar recording, and this will be sent out to you via email. I'll very quickly introduce myself. So my name is Alex, and I'm an international recruitment manager here at the University of Hull. And I'm very lucky to be able to work alongside the fantastic international engagement and compliance team at our university. And Olga and John, I will hand it over to you to introduce yourselves. I'll switch off my camera and mic, but just let me know when you're ready for me to move on to the next slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Sorry. Good morning. Thank you for hoping to come to study with us and for joining today's webinar. My name is Olga. I'm one of the immigration advisors at the University of Hull, and today here with me as well is John.
Oh, sorry, I'm John. Yeah, sorry, we haven't planned that very well. We didn't rehearse that very well. So yeah, I'm John, and I am also an immigration advisor, and I will be assisting Olga on this presentation.
Thank you, John. So we'll, I think we're ready for the next slide. Alex, please. Okay. A few more people are coming. So while we're waiting for others to join us, so what we're hoping to do today is to have kind of a quick overview of what to prepare for your student visa application, what to look out for, some maybe tips on, how to prepare your best visa application to make sure that your visa application is processed quickly without no delays and without any hiccups. So we'll talk about visa refusals a little bit, about the visa application process, the documents that you need to prepare in support of your visa application, and hopefully by the end of today's session, we will have answered some of your questions. Please look at the overview again, and we will cover, don't rush with your questions because we will cover quite a lot during the webinar. But if you feel that we haven't answered the question, if it's a general question, pop it into the question and answers section. If you have a specific question relating to your particular circumstances, you can contact us separately outside this webinar. It's best not to reveal your personal details in the question and answer section, but we'll also kind of talk about how to contact our team following the webinar. Is there anything else, John? I think we're ready for the next slide then, please, Alex. Okay, so we're in the international engagement and compliance team. There are 8 of us, I think, John. There are about 3 immigration advisors and
yeah, about between 8, I think 10.
And 10. You will know our team quite well, and you will be stuck with our team from beginning of your journey as international student at the University of Hull and right through to the end. And our team provides information, support and guidance relating to student visas. So any kind of the visa conditions, visa restrictions, post-study options, we can provide you with advice, information and guidance on those topics. Your student visa will have certain restrictions and conditions attached to it, and it's very important that you comply with those conditions. If you're not sure what they are, or if there are any changes to your circumstances that might impact your visa conditions, it's always worth to come and talk to our team. There will be plenty of opportunities. You can reach out to us via student portal or come and see us in person during we do run regular drop-in sessions as well on campus, or Teams call, whichever way is more convenient for you. So as I said, you'll probably get tired of seeing our team by the end of your studies, because you're meeting me and John today. If you've contacted our team before, you've probably communicated with us or our colleagues already. When you come to enroll, again, it will be our team enrolling you on your program, and then during the year at various points, at various stages, we will be there for you as well to guide you and to advise you. So the best way to contact our team at the moment is, if you don't have access to Hubble portal, you can contact our team on cas@hull.ac.uk. Once you've passed certain stage during your preparation to come and study here, you should start having access to Hubble portal. And if you raise visa and immigration inquiry there, your query will come to our team as well. Okay, is there anything else, John?
No, not necessarily. I already recognise a few names popping up. What I would say is that, as Olga said, we run immigration drop-in sessions. I'd like to think that we're a friendly and approachable team. I think it's important for you to understand that we're here for you, to help you and guide you through things. We're not here as representatives of UKVI. We don't work for UKVI, we work for the university, and we're here to help you through your university life. So don't be scared of us. We're here to help. Okay.
Next slide, please, Alex. Okay, so this is probably the question on all of your minds at the moment, if you haven't received your CAS yet. So when can you have your CAS? The CAS is the electronic record of your personal details of the program that you want to study, the start and date, the money you paid in terms of deposit or fees. And this electronic record is created by our team on UKVI database. So once we kind of accepted you applied to study with us, you met all of the academic conditions, you've gone through all the kind of clearance and compliance checks, we've accepted you, we've then the time will come for us to create the record on UKVI database to confirm to UKVI that we would like to sponsor your student visa. So and obviously university is your academic sponsor, we're also your visa sponsor. So we have certain responsibilities and restrictions placed on us by UKVI. So we have to comply with those as well. And that sometimes means that we need to ask you for further documents, and also occasions when unfortunately we cannot sponsor a student visa if we can't meet the UKVI requirements. So when can you have your CAS? So if you applied for your program, it's important that you accept your offer. Once you're issued with offer, it's important that you accept your offer. It's very important that you provide all the qualifications, references that are required to meet the conditions of your offer. As part of the admissions process, you will also be asked to upload your passport and any other information depending on the program you chose to study or your personal circumstances. So in some cases, it could be an affidavit if the names between your documents and your passport, that there are some kind of discrepancies or differences in the name order. Depending if you're studying a science program, you will need to apply for ATAS certificate. If you're not sure what ATAS is, don't worry, you probably don't need to provide it. If you're studying the science program, check your offer letter. If you need an ATAS, it will be mentioned there. So once you accept your offer, meet all of its conditions, pay a deposit, and once your deposit has been received and allocated to your record, or if you're a sponsored student, once we've received and verified your sponsor letter, your record will be ready for the CAS issuing process. So our colleagues who deal with CAS issue then will do the relevant compliance checks. They might ask you for updated personal statement or some other information. Once everything else is ready, they'll create a draft CAS record and send it to you. Okay, I think it's the next slide, please, Alex. Okay, so once you receive the draft CAS, it pulls all the information from your record relevant to UKVI and sent to you for check-in, because sometimes we're all human, so we all make mistakes. Sometimes we're making mistakes on your record. Sometimes the system pulls incorrect information. So it's very, very important that you check your draft CAS, that you don't rush it. You check it carefully to ensure that all the details are correct there. Your personal details, important to check that the name order is correct, is the same as in your passport, that there are no spelling mistakes, that your date of birth is correct, that the passport number is correct as well. If you changed your passport from when you applied to study with us and by the time you received your draft CAS, please upload a copy of your new passport as well to make sure that all the information on your draft CAS is accurate and is up to date. Check the dates for your course. Sometimes the end date is pulled incorrectly, so check your offer. Your course is 2 years. Your course end date on your CAS must be, the length must be 2 years as well, and so forth. The qualifications should be listed on your CAS as well, your academic qualifications, so make sure they're correct as well. We often get questions about the date of your qualifications, because you'll come back to us and say, I finished my studies in 2021, but on my CAS it says that I've received my qualification in 2022. So the date we go by is the date when you were issued your certificate. So you may have finished your studies in 21, but you graduated in 22. So your degree certificate will actually be dated 2022, and this is the date that will go on your CAS. So it's not an error. The IELTS scores, we're not required to put them on the CAS record, so they will not be mentioned on your CAS record. Again, it's not an error, it's just the way UKVI expects us to upload the record. But UKVI will be aware of your IELTS scores, and it's very important that you have all the qualifications, English qualifications, academic qualifications in readiness for your visa application. You don't necessarily, university is a sponsor with a trust record of compliance, and that means that you don't have to submit your qualifications with your visa application, but UKVI often requests to see these. They often verify them as well with your education provider, so it's very important that you do have them ready. Okay. Also on your CAS, there will be a section, your course fees charged and the course fees paid. So please make sure that your deposit payment or any other extra payments are reflected correctly. And if you decide to make any additional payments before the CAS is issued, make sure that it's reflected on your CAS. If you pay more money towards your fees after your CAS is issued, and you want UKVI to be aware of that, it's very important that you let us know, and it's very important that you wait until we update your CAS record. So we cannot update your CAS record until your money has been received and allocated to your record. So sometimes it takes a few working days. So make sure that you you don't rush your visa application. You wait until you received confirmation that your CAS record has been updated and reflects this extra fee payment. Okay. John, do you have anything to add?
Nothing from me.
Okay, thank you.
You've
Could we
covered
have the
everything.
next slide? Could we have the next slide, please? Okay. Previous visa refusals. So before we talk the previous visa refusals, what I also would like to mention about your offer and CAS is that your student visa is tied into the university and to the course you've decided to study with us. And I know sometimes, it's very difficult to decide which course is best, which campus is the best. But it's very, very important that you you take time to reflect before you commit to visa application and to come in and study with us. The visa application, the visa costs quite a lot. The immigration health charge costs quite a lot. The actual study in the UK is expensive. And because visa is tied to a particular course in university, it's very important that you're confident in what course you want to study and which campus you want to study at. University of Hull have 2 campuses, one in London and one in Hull. And once you've decided what you want to study, it is possible to change your course, to change university, and to change a campus, but with that comes change in visa. So if you travel to the UK on a student visa to study a business program, the university in London campus, and then once you arrived, you decide that you would rather study the science course on Hull campus, you will have to go back home, change your visa, and then come back to the UK again. And by that time, your course will have started. So that means that you will have to defer to another year, and you will lose the money that you spent on making your visa application, traveling to the UK, accommodation, and so forth. So it's going to be an expensive decision. It's possible, but it's going to cost you time and money. So it's very, very important that you're confident in what you want to do. Okay, let's talk about previous refusals. Unfortunately, these happen for lots of reasons. In most cases, the refusals could be avoided, but sometimes, yeah, they do happen. And unfortunately, the previous refusals have impact on any future visa applications. And the visa refusals, apart from having impact on future visa applications, they also impact on university. I mean, I've mentioned before that we have to comply with, we have certain responsibilities that we have to comply with from UKVI, and assessing the risks of refusals is one of those requirements. And if we believe that there is a risk that the student visa application could be refused, then we cannot sponsor the student visa. So therefore, we always ask our applicants, our students, to let us know whether they've had any previous refusals. We will ask copies of them, and we'll also check what are the risks of the future visa refusal. And if we believe that the risks are not as serious, then we will also ask for financial evidence, just to make sure to try to minimize the future refusal risks. So if you have previous visa refusals, if we haven't asked for these yet, please upload them in your admissions portal, because the earlier we see them, the more time we have to guide you through the next, through the process of what to do to minimize the future risks. And if you have previous refusals, it's advisable to make your visa application, next visa application, as early as possible, because whenever there is a visa refusal, it presents future risk, and therefore UKVI undertakes extra checks when they process one's visa application. They might ask you for further information, they might invite you for credibility interview, and unfortunately, previous refusals often lead to further refusals as well, depending on circumstances, depending on reasons of previous refusals. So for example, if your previous refusal is on credibility and you haven't challenged it, so then it's very likely that your next visa application will be refused as well. Okay, so what our team asks whenever there is evidence of previous refusals, we always ask for financial evidence. And in a lot of cases, we will also ask for personal statements or clarification why you want to study with us. We might ask for kind of clarify if there are any discrepancies or inaccuracies, or request some other information as well. It's very important. I mean, it's not like we kind of too curious and want to know kind of all your personal circumstances. No, we're trying to kind of to assess your personal circumstances, assess the risks of any further refusal, and then kind of decide what are the risks are for you, what are the risks are for university. And unfortunately, in some cases where the risk of the refusal are high, we are unable to sponsor your student visa. Again, not because necessarily we don't want you to study with us, we do, but we can't really sponsor a student visa where there is a risk of a future refusal. And then kind of you have an option whether to find an alternative institution or alternative maybe country to study, or kind of the alternative visa route, because obviously if university doesn't have to sponsor your student visa, we will not be kind of assessing the visa refusal risks. If we asked you for evidence of finance that you're going to rely on with your visa application, it's important that you send it to us as soon as it's ready, as soon as it meets UKVI requirements, and ideally before 30th of June, to give us time to check and provide you with guidance, to give you time to prepare if you need kind of to do some to get more money, for example, or to pay more towards your fees, to give yourself more time as well. The standard visa applications are processed within 3 weeks, 15 working days, but during the summer UKVI is as busy as universities, so at times it takes longer. If UKVI needs to undertake extra verification checks, it's kind of prolongs the visa application process. Therefore, ideally, you should all be ready to be submitting your visa applications by the end of June, to give yourself as much time as possible to get your visa sorted, and then for you to get your tickets ready and things else. Of course, if you feel that you need more time, if there are some circumstances where you need more time to prepare your evidence, just let us know. Let us know, and we'll see whether kind of there is time. There is if we have kind of more flexibility to give to extend this deadline. So always, if you have any questions, if you're not sure about anything, please reach out to our team as early as possible. We are busy during this period. Unfortunately we can't always get back to you as quickly as we want to, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be reaching out. Please contact us as soon as you can. Yeah. Unless you have something else to add, I think we're ready for the next slide.
All I was just going to say, I can see a few people with their hands up. We won't be able to answer questions like that, so if you do have any questions, can you just use the Q&A function, and we should be able to answer through that, as opposed to letting you speak, because your microphones are going to be off. Also, just to emphasise more what Olga's been saying, if you have been contacted by us, it might not just be for financial evidence. So if we have contacted you to ask some questions, just please reply as soon as possible. The fewer times that we have to chase you up for an answer, the quicker the whole process is. So please keep an eye out on your email, and ensure that you do have access to the email address that's on the system. If you do have agents as well, make sure that they're aware of the previous refusal, and that we may be getting in touch with you. I think that's it from me for now. Olga, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Ready for the next slide, please, Alex. Thank you. Okay, and if you do, as John mentioned, if you do have an agent, so make sure that the obviously you give permission to your agent to contact us, and and that the agent doesn't use your personal email to contact us. That if they do contact us, they contact us from their agency, from their own email, not your personal one. Okay. Right, so documents in support of your visa application. So this is the webinar for those of you who are applying out for your student visa outside of the UK. If there is anyone here who's already in the UK and you would like to know whether you can make your student visa application inside of the UK, please contact us separately outside of the webinar, and then we'll look at your circumstances and provide you with further guidance. So for the student visa application outside of the UK, the documents that most of you will need to prepare is you need to make sure that your passport is valid. It doesn't have to cover the full length of your course, but it needs to be valid until at least end of December 2025. And this is to kind of to give you time to obtain your visa, travel to the UK, start your course, and then have time to kind of to renew your passport. If your passport is expiring during your studies in the UK, please contact the passport authorities in your country of in your home country and check, can you renew your passport now? Can you renew your passport while you're in the UK, and what the process is? And if not, you know, how quickly would you be able to renew it if you travel back home, for example, during our winter break? It's very important that you have all that information so that you know what to do. And if your passport does expire during your studies in the UK, please make sure that you make arrangements to renew it in good time. Okay, then you, apart from your valid passport, you'll need your CAS number, and that will be issued to you once you have met all of the conditions of your offer and accepted it, and we've received your deposit. You'll need to prepare your academic qualifications and qualifications of English language as well. Make sure that you've got them ready, because UKVI may want to see them and verify them, and it is also advisable to have these qualifications with you when you travel. So again, UKVI might want to check and verify them upon your arrival. If you needed ATAS for your studies, for your offer letter, you'll also need for your visa. The ATAS certificate. If you need ATAS certificate, if you haven't applied for it, please apply for it as soon as possible, as it could take up to 4 or 5 weeks for it to be issued. Once it's issued, it covers the length of your course, but it has the validity period. So once issued, it's valid for 6 months for you to make your visa application. Once you make your visa application, once you received your visa, it will cover the length of your course. And then if you need more time to finish your course, or if there are any changes to your course, then you'll need to apply for a new certificate, ATAS certificate. Depending on your country of residence, you may also need a TB certificate. A TB certificate is a medical kind of certificate confirming that you are clear of tuberculosis. You can only obtain it from, we'll have links to all this information in one of the slides at the end of the webinar, but you can only obtain this certificate from the clinics approved by UKVI. With TB certificates, if everything is clear, if your test comes back clear, it's great. It could be issued quickly. However, sometimes, obviously, depending on the demand, there might be queues, or you might not be able to get the test date as soon as possible. Sometimes the test is not very clear, so you have to kind of come back in 5 weeks, and that obviously causes the delay. It might cause a delay to your visa application. So please, while you're waiting for your CAS, make sure that you've applied for ATAS if you need it, and make sure you've sorted your TB certificate if you need it, just in case there is a delay. Once issued, TB certificate is also valid for 6 months for you to make the visa application. And if you think about it, your course start date is less than 6 months away. So there is nothing kind of to stop you from getting your TB certificate ready now if you need it. Okay, and financial evidence. It's very, very important that you, I mean, I'm sure you all kind of now know kind of where the money is coming from, how much money you need for you to study, and it's all kind of make sure that you prepare your financial evidence now and that it meets UKVI requirements now, because the most common reason for visa refusal is finance. And it could be avoided because it all kind of, the reason is usually because the kind of the evidence doesn't meet UKVI requirements, and it could have met it if just you kind of the students didn't rush to make their visa applications. So please, if you think about it, if you look at the list on the slide, really, CAS number is the last, it's the final thing that you need. While you're waiting for your CAS, if you prepare all other documents on your list, once you have your CAS, you will be ready to apply for your visa the same day because everything else is ready. But we quite often what happens, we have students who chase CAS again and again and again, week in, week out, then they're issued with the CAS and the other documents are not ready. And they need another month to wait for the financial evidence to be ready. They need, then there is a delay with TB certificate or ATAS, and it kind of, there is a knock-on effect on the visa application process. So therefore, please, if you kind of keep checking your admissions record, I know I keep going on about it, but I just want to make sure that everything is ready for you and your visa application is as smooth as possible. Depending on your circumstances, you may also need to provide some other documents in support of your visa application. So for example, you're a national of one country, but you're currently residing in a different country because you're studying or working there. So you will need to provide evidence of your kind of stay, your residence permit in that country. If some of your documents are not in English, you will need to provide the official translations, and the right, obviously, if you're relying on your parents' financial evidence, you'll need to provide your birth certificate, letters from your parents. So there might be some other documents that you will need to provide as well, depending on your circumstances. Again, if you're not sure, just reach out to our team following the webinar or whenever you have questions relating to your particular inquiry, to your particular visa application. Okay, ready to move to next slide. And John, please add if anything, if I, okay, could be potentially last slide. Okay, mentioned refusals before, and we keep going on about it because sometimes you kind of feel for the person kind of who could have avoided the refusals. Yes, refusals do happen. UKVI sometimes make mistakes when they process one's visa application, but in most cases, John, correct me if I'm wrong, in most cases, refusal could be avoided. And the reason why it happens is because the student have not prepared the documents or have not prepared for the actual visa application process. So these are kind of the just few points for you to look out for and a few points for you to prepare, which will hopefully help you with your studies as well. So the documents, all the documents that you submit in support of your visa application, CAS, passport, qualifications, birth certificate, letters from your sponsors or your parents, you need to make sure that information of those documents is accurate, is correct, and is up to date, and that the kind of the information on those documents and information you put on your visa application, that there are no discrepancies. So with your visa application, it's an online application. Make sure that kind of you check the information before you hit that submit button, that there are no mistakes. If you've noticed a mistake, correct it. If you've noticed a mistake and you cannot correct it, if it's a minor one, you can just write a letter, an explanation letter, and upload it with the documents. If it's a major mistake, then you might need to contact us because you might need to cancel your application, visa application, and start again. Okay, so important to prepare your documents. It's also important to kind of to follow the visa application process as well. That kind of the emails sometimes come to the junk or spam folder. The UKVI often requests further information. They might ask you for further financial evidence. They might ask you for copies of your qualifications. If you finished your studies a few years ago, previous studies a few years ago, and have been working or doing something and now decided to study further, UKVI might contact you and say, okay, we need to know what you have been doing since you've completed your previous studies, and what have you been doing, why do you want to study. They might ask you, for example, if they contacted your bank, they cannot contact them. They might email you and say, we can't contact your bank, can you please send us alternative financial evidence? And they usually give 10 days for you to respond. If you haven't been checking your emails, if you haven't checked your junk box or spam box, you'll miss that inquiry. And what it would lead to refusal, because UKVI will refuse you, saying, you know, we've tried to reach out, you haven't contacted us, therefore we can't process your visa application, we'll refuse it. The most common reason for refusal still is financial reason, and the kind of the mistakes that students make. John will talk a lot more about financial evidence, but the mistakes students make is they provide the evidence that doesn't cover the required period, or provide the evidence where the amount of money is lower because you haven't checked it for submitting your visa application, or you haven't responded to UKVI when they asked you to explain certain transactions. With financial evidence, UKVI might contact you and ask, for example, where the money is coming from. They quite often UKVI contact financial institutions to verify the information on your financial evidence, and they do it through a kind of at the time of visa application and when you even arrive to the UK. So it's very important that you kind of maintain your funds and make sure that, you know, everything should be there, is there as well. The UKVI could also invite you for the interview. It's called credibility interview, and the purpose of that is kind of to ascertain whether you're a credible student and also to check your level of English. I can't remember whether we have a slide about the interviews. I'll talk about it now anyway, just in case we don't. So what they kind of, you've all prepared the personal statements when you apply to study with us. So in some way, the interview follows the kind of the statement. The UKVI wants to know how and why you decided to study in the UK and at this university, why you went for a particular program, how you chose it, what do you know about the university, what do you know about the program, have you thought about the kind of accommodation where you're going to live and what you're going to do. So all those things you already kind of, I'm sure you've all kind of thought about it. So it might be worth kind of, again, going through all those things to make sure that you are ready for the interview. Credibility refusals are the most difficult to challenge because they're subjective. They're based on the information you provide to the interviewing officer and then kind of on their interpretation of your answers, and therefore it's very, very difficult to challenge those refusals. And once you have a credibility refusal, it's then very difficult to get the sponsorship for your next visa, because UKVI, by refusing you on credibility grounds, doesn't trust that you're a genuine student. So it's a big risk to the university. So we won't be able to sponsor you. So it's kind of impacts your immigration history quite a lot. So therefore, it's important to prepare for it. And if you're called for an interview, it's always worth to, after the interview, write down all the questions, all the answers that you could remember, and ask UKVI for the transcript and check it. And then if there are any issues, just make sure that you contact us before you get the decision as well. Okay. Ready for the next slide?
Can I just add something? Sorry,
Of
Olga.
course.
Onto the. Oh, thanks, Alex. If you do receive an email from UKVI, please read it properly. I think it'll most likely come from an email address that says "do not reply." So please don't just reply to the email that you receive. I've seen a few refusals where students have said, I provided the documents that they requested, but they've just replied to the email and it says on the top, do not reply at ukvi.co.uk or whatever it is. So that email will not have been seen. In the body of the text of the email that they send you, it will give you the email address to send the documents to. So please ensure that you read everything that you get sent through and don't just hit the reply button, because more than likely UKVI won't see it and you'll get a refusal because they haven't seen the documents they've asked for. And even if you put an admin review in to say, I did send it, I've provided the documents here, it will still be refused because you haven't followed the instructions properly. So please read everything you get. Like Olga said, check your spam, check everything, but ensure you read it and make sure you're replying and sending information to the right email addresses. I think that's it from me.
Thanks, John. Thank you. Okay, so visa application process, student visa application process. Where can you submit your visa application from? Your country of residence or your home country, wherever you are at the moment. Where you kind of, obviously you need to make sure if you're visiting a country, it's probably unlikely that you will be able to submit your student visa application from there, but your home country or your current country of residence where you have this kind of residence permit, you should be able to apply. And you should be applying as soon as all your documents are ready and they meet UKVI requirements. So if kind of the financial evidence, if you need to wait 28 days, don't apply on day 27. Yeah, just wait. It's better to apply on the day 29th of your financial evidence. Everything else needs to be ready as well. The date of your visa application is the date you submit and pay your visa fee and your immigration health charge. And therefore, it's important that all your evidence meets UKVI requirements at that time, not the following day, not the day of your biometric appointments, the day you pay your visa fee and your immigration health charge. There is a question on your visa application that kind of asks what kind of sponsor University of Hull is. And we are a higher education provider with a track record of compliance. So this is the option you need to choose from. And if you choose the correct option, then you don't have to submit your academic qualifications at the time of your visa application. But of course, if you're not sure, just take your submit your qualifications just in case you make a mistake in choosing the sponsor. The sponsor license is there on the slide, but you will also find this sponsor license. This is university sponsor license on your CAS. It will be on your CAS statement. The university's address is there as well. Okay. How the process work? You create an account on UKVI website. It will be your account, then you will be sent a link and you will be able to access kind of your account and your visa application at any time until you submit it. So the actual visa application is an online visa application, and once you've submitted and paid, you will need to choose an appointment to submit your biometric details to UKVI, and the biometric enrollment obviously is in person, and the document submission, sometimes you should be able to upload it at the time of your visa application. If not, you should be able to submit it during your biometric enrollment appointment. There is a question on your visa application that asks whether you know where you're going to live once you are here. And sometimes students panic thinking that they need to arrange accommodation. You don't have to. You don't have to arrange accommodation. You can kind of, if the question is, do you know where you're going to live? You can choose no. Then there will be a drop-down menu to say kind of what your plans are. And there is a kind of free text box where you can explain what your plan is. And it will be different for everyone. So for example, you might want to stay in the hotel for a few days until you kind of check the accommodation options and decide what's best for you. Or you might have some other plans, or I mean, you might already know which accommodation you want to live in, but you kind of want your visa to be finalized before you decide to book or to pay any fees. So with accommodation, although you don't have to arrange it before your visa application, it's extremely important that you check availability, that you check kind of what options are available near university, because obviously you need to have an idea of the cost and location and the kind of the facilities available. If you're interviewed by UKVI, they might ask you the same question as well. And if you don't know, if you haven't made any plans, sometimes UKVI thinks that the genuine student should know what their plans are and where they're going to live. So please, it's very important to check what's available. The kind of, obviously, we I think how to compare with other cities in the UK is the prices are cheaper than in some other big cities, but the kind of the we would also expect, obviously, because the attendance forms an important part of your studies and kind of compliance with your visa conditions. So we would expect students to live within kind of the reasonable distance from university to make sure that you kind of you can. There is nothing to prevent you from attending your classes regularly. Okay, with tenancy agreements, we would advise you the way kind of it works in the UK. Once you sign an agreement to live in your accommodation, that agreement is binding, that contract is binding, and then if you change your mind, but you signed contract for a year, you're still liable for the rent for that year. So therefore, it's very important that you read your contract, that you don't sign it until you arrived here and kind of have your visa arrived here and ready to move in. That you don't, it's not advice. I mean, obviously, it's your choice, it's your decision, but we would advise you not to kind of pay a lot in advance for your accommodation, because if things go wrong, if there is a delay or if there's a problem with the visa, you might not be able to get that money back because you've signed your contract and you've paid all that money. And unfortunately, sometimes there are people who kind of because obviously you're a long way away, you're not here, that there are some unscrupulous renters who would take your money, but that there is no accommodation to show for it. So it's very, very important that you kind of, if you're not sure, don't pay, don't sign the agreement, and don't pay in advance too much. I mean, you might need to pay, for example, if you apply to live in university student accommodation, you may need to pay the admin fee, kind of the booking fee. But if somebody is asking you to pay upfront for a year, it is advisable not to do it, because you might not be able to recover that money if you change your mind, or if there is an issue with that. Okay, is there anything else, John?
Not really. I just sort of back you up when you are looking for accommodation when you arrive. If that's what you, please look as close to the university as possible. In the past, there has been issues with finding accommodation close by, but that was generally when the dependent situation was different and people couldn't find family accommodation. There's plenty of accommodation close by for students. So the closer you live to the university, the better for you. The cheaper it'll be with travel costs and everything, and also the better for your attendance, which again like Olga touched upon, helps with your keeping in line with your visa conditions. So if you do get the chance, please try and live as close to the university as possible. We do have people spread across the country, and the further away you live, the harder it is for you to get in, the more expensive it is for you to get in, and which can also have a detrimental effect on your course, your study, which in turn has a detrimental effect on your visa. I think that's it for me, Olga. Sorry.
Thank you.
Keep jumping in.
Next slide, please. That's what I like. Thank you. Okay, I think it's my last slide, and then I can pass it to John. So digital immigration status. On your visa applications, once you start completing it, there might be a question about the BRP, biometric residence permit. And if you've been to the UK before, or if you have friends or relatives who are studying here or live here or work here, they might mention the biometric residence permit as well. So until December last year, so the kind of, if you had a visa longer than 6 months to be in the UK, everyone was issued with a biometric residence permit confirming the type of your visa, the start and end date. So now UKVI has moved to the online, to the digital immigration status. So once you receive UKVI decision, which will be sent to you by email, it will also have details of how to set up your own UKVI e-visa account. And once you set it up, you will be able to view your visa online. So you won't have the BRP, your visa will be visible online, and to prove to university or to agency where you will be, or the person you will be renting your accommodation from, you will need to, or if you kind of work in the UK, you'll just need to kind of generate what's called a share code for them for university or for your accommodation provider or for your employer to check your visa condition, to check your type of visa before they can kind of enroll you or give you a contract to sign and so forth. So your visa should be there online, the digital visa. However, on your visa application, I believe there is still a section that kind of talks about biometric residence permit and asks you to put the kind of university's address and confirming where you can collect your BRP from. So don't be kind of worried about that. You'll still have to complete that section for you to complete your visa application. It's because UKVI have not updated their online visa application yet. But you will not get your BRP once you arrive here. You will have kind of a digital immigration status. There are some links on the presentation where you can find more information on how to set up your e-visa account. There is a video there as well explaining what it is and before. But if you have any questions, just contact our team. I believe this is all from me, and I can now pass it to John, and hopefully we'll be able to answer some of the questions. I can see some questions about the finance in 28 days, so John will cover all that in the next 40 minutes or so.
Let's hope I do. Thank you, Olga. Very informative as always. So as Olga mentioned, I'll be touching upon some finance information for you now. I apologise in advance if it is a bit dull. It can be quite heavy, but it is important. So if you wanted to take, I know Alex said that you get sent things across after, but if you can take screenshots and you wanted to make notes, please feel free to do so. And if you do have any further questions, you can contact us after. So how much money do I need? So in order to study in the UK, you need enough to cover your course and your living costs for the duration of your stay. So that'll also be your maintenance costs, which you might see it worded like that. So your maintenance and living costs includes things like your accommodation, and your dental and opticians, because this isn't included in your IHS fee, and neither are prescriptions. Prescriptions at the moment are £9.90 per prescription, which is on top of your IHS fee. But if, like me, you need multiple prescriptions a month for asthmatic, you may be two, you can buy a prepayment card. It's an online card, it's not a physical thing, which is £11.45 a month, and this is something that you can purchase online after you've registered with a doctor in the UK. You've also got to think about your transport costs. So again, this is why it's important to look at your accommodation and think about where you want to live. The closer you live to the university, the cheaper your transport costs will be. Other extras, of course, are food and any social fees. So you've got to think about your general living costs as well. So to make your application outside the UK, you need to pay the remainder of the balance. You need to have, the remainder of the tuition fee balance for your first academic year. So, for instance, if your fee is £14,000 and you pay your £4,000 deposit, you would need £10,000. I'll touch upon more of this in the next slide with some examples. Your living costs at the moment, as we're outside London, it's more expensive in London. Your living costs, you need to prove that you've got 9 months worth of £1,136, which is £10,224. So, for instance, if we go back to that example of having 10,000 academic fees remaining, you would need to provide a total of 20,224 as a bare minimum. Obviously, taking into account the exchange rate fluctuations. So we do advise, if possible and where possible, to have more than the bare minimum available. Your visa application fee has just increased to £524, and that is plus any extra services. For instance, if you decide to apply for priority or super priority, if that is available where you are applying from. We don't have all that information to hand, but that is something that you should be able to find out yourself. The immigration health surcharge at the moment is £776 per person, and that is per year. Just to make you aware, if you are coming to do a 1-year masters, or if you're, let's just base it on 1 year's masters, your visa will be for 12 months, and you will have an additional 4 months after your visa runs out. So you will pay £776 for that first year, and £338 because the remaining 4 months is under 6 months for that 4 months. So if you go to your application and you're charged more than £776, it's not an error. You don't need to panic. You do pay for it's £776 per year. And if it's under 6 months, you pay an additional £338. So I'm going to try and do my maths really quickly now. If you're doing if you're doing a master's degree for just 1 year, you will likely be paying £1,114, I think, if my maths is correct, around that anyway, per year for your immigration health surcharge. So don't worry if it is that price. It's not a mistake. You don't need to email us in panic. That is correct. To enrol on your course, you will all have to pay a £4,000 deposit, whether you're doing postgrad or undergrad study. And if you are doing undergrad study, you may have to pay more fees before you enrol, which will total 50% of your total course fees for that first year. So the 50% is depending on whether or not you paid your deposit. And more details can be found online on our website, and you can follow those links, or just type into Google undergraduate fees, University of Hull, or postgraduate fees, University of Hull, which should give you a breakdown of how payments are made. It is important to keep on top of payments and keep in touch with finance if you are having any difficulties, just because there is a chance that you will get certain accesses revoked if you don't keep on top of your payments. So that is something to bear in mind. I don't know if there's any webinars at a later date with finance where they may go over things in more detail, but it is important to keep on top of those payments as often and as swiftly as possible. Anything else to add, Olga, on that?
Thanks, John. Just regarding the IHS fees, it might be slightly more than John mentioned, because when you apply outside of the UK, UKVI charges the fee in dollars. So obviously it will depend on the exchange rate at the time when you pay for that for your IHS. So it could be slightly more.
That is a good point. I'm not too sure why they do that, but I'm sure there's a reason. But yeah, next slide, please, Alex. So financial evidence for your student visa, what documents are accepted? So you can only use, and this is where a lot of people do receive refusals, your personal bank statements. So either your own or your parents. You can't use brothers, you can't use sisters, siblings, cousins, aunties, uncles, grandparents. We do see refusals for these every year, where they say somebody else is sponsoring me. If somebody else is willing to sponsor your studies, which is lovely and very kind of them, they'd have to transfer the funds into your bank account. You wouldn't be able to use their bank account as part of your financial evidence. It will result in a refusal. So only yourself, your own bank statements, and your parents. And if you are using your parents, you must provide your birth certificate to show that they are your parents, and a letter of consent when using your parents' bank statements, which is just them telling UKVI that they are aware that you've used their bank accounts and you are allowing it, they are allowing it, and they are going to sponsor your studies. Again, just so it's not, you haven't committed any fraud by submitting their bank account statements. You can use an official sponsor, so your national government, a university, or an international company. We've got international company in red there because although you can technically be sponsored by an international company, we don't recommend that you are. And that's because UK's definition of an international company isn't fully clear, and people that often try to submit evidence of sponsorship from an international company often get rejected and refused. So we don't recommend using that. It is there because technically you can use it, but as I say, we've put it in red because we don't recommend it. So you can also use an educational loan, and there is strict criteria behind an educational loan. So, but it doesn't just have to be from a bank. You can get an educational loan from a bank. It can be from a student loan. A student loan can come from a government-sponsored loan company or a regulated student loan company. It's basically got to confirm that it is a student loan specifically for studying. So it can't be like a loan for something to do with your house that you then decided, right, I'm going to switch that and use that for my studies. We do say avoid microfinance banks and short-term loans which are offered for the purposes of making a visa application. Avoid microfinance banks, as Olga touched on earlier with refusals. These are extremely difficult for UKVI to contact and often results in a refusal more often than not. So please, if you have got a microfinance bank at the moment, look into a larger national bank that is regulated within its country of origin and transfer your funds as soon as possible to that. Short-term loans, which are offered for the purpose of making a visa application, we don't recommend this, simply for the fact that if you take a loan out, pay your fees, get through the visa process, then have to pay that money back. You don't have any money when you arrive. You may be asked when you arrive in the UK for your financial evidence to ensure that you still have that money there. And if you can't provide that, you may be blocked from entry and not allowed into the country. On top of that, when you arrive, if you don't have the available money and you can't pay your fees, it will eventually cause you to lose access to certain university programs, and you might not be able to submit any work, etc. Sorry, this sounds all doom and gloom. I'm just trying to give you as much information as possible. Also, on top of that, you won't be able to receive any financial aid from the university itself as you are a student visa student. So if you don't have the money to live, we are very limited on how we can help from a financial perspective. So that is something to bear in mind. If you are looking to get a short-term loan to get you through the purposes of making a visa application, you need to really think whether it's the right time for you. If you're in that situation, we'd probably recommend deferring your studies and trying to save money other ways, or look into alternate ways to fund your education, because we don't want you coming over here and struggling for your own sake as much as anything else. You've got to look after yourself and make sure that you have the finances to cover yourself effectively. If you do make any additional payments on top of the £4,000 deposit, feel free to just email us and let us know as well if you want to ensure that we know. But please ensure you are issued with a new CAS stating the updated amount. And if you need that, you can again contact us and ask us for an updated CAS. Anything else on that, Olga?
No, thank you. Thanks, John.
Great, thank you. Next slide, please, Alex. Right, so the financial evidence. So the minimum amount, as we've already touched upon, is the outstanding fees plus the living costs or maintenance for the duration of your course, if less than 9 months, or minimum living costs to cover at least the first 9 months of your course. We'll touch upon again, I've touched upon that already, so I won't go into too much details before I give you some examples on, I think it's the next slide. So the minimum period, 28 consecutive days, ending with the date of the last transaction issue date. So the statement issued within 1 month of the visa application date. So as Olga's mentioned earlier, this date, your finance needs to be ready on the day that you submit your visa application and pay your fees for the IHS and the visa application fee. It's probably best to try and go over 28 days. We know how UKVI calculate the 28 days, but it's just safe to give yourself the extra couple of days to ensure that it clearly covers 28 days rather than risking it. They are very strict on the 28-day policy, and we do see refusals where a student has submitted statements that only cover 27 days. So please ensure that you have calculated it correctly. And if you need any help with any of this, if you want anybody to check it, please provide us with the evidence, even if we haven't looked at it, and we'll do our best to get back to you as soon as possible. So what to consider apart from currency exchange fluctuations, and again, I touched upon this before. We had a situation a couple of years ago where the currency exchange rate fluctuated a lot with the Nigerian naira, and a lot of students were unable to submit their financial evidence because it no longer matched UKVI's. I've just lost the word completely, but it was no longer valid. Effectively, there wasn't enough money anymore in students' bank accounts. So please keep on top of exchange rates, and this is why we say try and have more than the minimum, just in case. They will take, though, the exchange rate on the day that you submit your visa application. So, for instance, if you submitted your visa application today and your financial evidence was perfect and in line, and then in a couple of days' time there was a big crash and a big difference in the exchange rates, and you no longer had enough money, they would look at it at the exchange rate on the day you submitted your application, so you would still be okay. So as long as the day you submit your application you have enough funds and it's been held for a minimum period of 28 days, you should be fine. But please just keep a close eye on it anyway. So extra evidence, birth certificates, consent letter, translations, etc. If you need these, if you're using your parents' financial evidence, verification process and further checks upon arrival. Again, as I've touched upon, please ensure that you still have the relevant funds when you arrive in the UK and for the duration of your course. You may be asked on arrival. I think there was an image sent round the other day, Olga, I think it was Heathrow Airport, where they had a list of information needed for students arriving, for international students arriving, and on there was financial evidence, just in case you are asked for it. So please ensure that you do still have the financial evidence that meets the requirements. But yeah, I think that's it for me, Olga. Anything else on that part?
Yeah, I think I have no comments.
Perfect. That's all right. That's what I like to hear. I'll just have a sip of water before I go into this one. Thank you, Alex. So yeah, again, apologies for this. It looks like a lot of information. I am effectively going to read this out to you, and it's just some examples. So we're going to take a bank statement which is issued on the 29th of May and covers the period between the 1st and 29th of May. So the visa application date is the 15th of June, and the minimum amount of funds needed to be shown is £10,000 balance of fees plus £10,224 living costs. So effectively, we need to provide, we need to show £20,224. So example number one, the opening balance is £0 and the closing balance is £25, but the funds went in on the 15th of May. So this wouldn't be meet UKVI requirements because the funds were held for less than 28 days. They were held between the 15th and the 29th of May. Although the funds available are enough, they haven't been held for the minimum amount. So if this was your bank account, for instance, and the fees went in on the 15th of May, that would be the first day you start counting. You start counting 28 days from there because that's the first day that the funds are available. Option two, example two, sorry. So your opening balance is 21,500, but the closing balance is 15,000. So this again would not be eligible and wouldn't meet UKVI requirements because the funds are below minimum amount required on one or more of the dates during the 28-day period. So again, although you start off with the right amount and it covers the 28-day period, it falls below the required amount within that period. So again, you'd have to start counting 28-day, you'd have to build it back up to at least 20,224 and start counting from that date again. Excuse me. So example number 3, and this is good news, this one. So your opening balance is £22,000 and your closing balance is £21,000 with no transact. Well, it'd be 20. I've made a mistake there, but it'd be closing balance would be £22,000 with no transactions. So this is fine, subject to exchange rates and providing statements meet other requirements on the date of the visa application and passes verification checks. You've opened the balance with 22,000, which is a required amount, no transactions, and you've ended with 22,000, and you've held the minimum requirement for 28 days. You don't need any transactions, and that's absolutely fine. And this should pass. This meets the financial requirements. Example number 4. So the opening balance is £23,000. The closing balance is £22,000. So you've had a couple of transactions within the 28-day period, but the balance has not gone below the minimum 20,224 on any of the days during the 28-day period. So again, this meets requirements, subject to exchange rates and providing statement meets other requirements on the date of the visa application and passes UKVI verification checks. So again, this just shows that you can still use the bank account. The example before was a new bank account set aside purely for your visa application, whereas this one shows that it's a working account, maybe a normal bank account. So as long as your fees don't fall below the minimum £20,224 on any of the 28 days, you can still use the bank account as normal. And the final one, so the opening balance of £26,000 and the closing balance of £24,000. This looks, on the forefront, it looks absolutely fine because you've not gone, you've started and ended with a balance above the minimum. But on the 5th of May, the minimum balance went down to £20,000. This again wouldn't pass UKVI requirements because the funds are below the minimum amount required on one of the 28 days in that period. So as the previous examples, once your funds go back above the minimum £20,224, you start counting from that date, 28 days forward. It's important to know as well that your bank statements format needs to have the date of issue, an opening and closing balance, and the date and amount for both of these. You've got to be aware of exchange rates fluctuations. You may be asked about your source of funds. For instance, I've seen a few refusals again where somebody's had a large sum of money come in. UKVI have gone back to them and asked them where that money's come from, what the source of it is, and they've not replied, and they've had a refusal because they haven't passed on that UKVI, passed on that information to UKVI. So it looks like they might have just got a short loan to cover the visa process. So that they're just ensuring that you have that money for the duration of your course. And obviously, UKVI will undertake verification checks. They will probably try and contact your bank. So you can let your bank know. And I think anything else on that, Olga?
It just kind of to reiterate what you said, John, that UKVI just want to ensure that the money you have allocated for your studies is yours. It's there for you to use to pay your fees, to cover your living costs, and therefore if they look at the bank statement and there are lots of transactions where it looks like the money has just been moved from other personal bank accounts, the UKVI may suspect that somebody's just been borrowing money from their friends or relatives to cover that, so they might ask for further clarification. So therefore, know the studying is in the UK is expensive, and now that you've committed yourself, you just need to make sure that the money is there, that all the finances are in place for you. Like John mentioned before, we don't financial problems cause kind of issues and concerns and a lot of distress to kind of to the person. So it's very, very important that you try to kind of have maybe plan B, something else in place if there are problems that you haven't expected, if the source of fund that you were hoping to rely on is not there anymore, kind of think, what else, are there any alternative sources of funding you can rely on? If you're thinking that you might be able to work in the UK, to earn some money towards your living costs, kind of think about it. You might not be able to find a job, and if you do, you're only allowed to work 20 hours per week. But even then, if your course is quite intense, remember that you have a student visa, you're studying here, so the main focus, the main reason why you're here is to study. So therefore, you need to make sure that anything else you do, like work, doesn't have an impact on your studies, doesn't have an impact on your academic progress. So therefore, kind of, you need to make sure that you don't put yourself under any kind of undue financial stress, and ensure that the money is there for you to cover kind of cost and study expenses. Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Next slide, please, Alex. As you can see, that's it for finances for now, which is nice. Thank you for that, Olga, because it gave me a little bit of a breather. So if UKVI invite you for an interview, what shall you do? We can't give you advice in our position. We can't tell you what you have to say or anything like that. So we can only just guide you through this process. So remember to attend your interview, first of all. Again, we get refusals for people that didn't attend interviews. So ensure that you attend it. If you're asked, again, check your spam folders, check everything. And if you're asked to attend an interview, ensure you do. If you do have any issues with internet or anything like that on the day, contact UKVI and let them know. But there are some points to consider. So consider why you have chosen to study in the UK, and more specifically, why you have chosen Hull University, Hull as a city, and the specific programme and what that might mean to you and for you and your future plans. So also consider how you came about choosing Hull and the specific course, and what program of study you are studying. Make sure you know the modules, make sure you know what the course encompasses and what you've got to look forward to, and how it will help your future career plans. So you may be asked about your funds as well, so make sure that you've got the evidence available for your funds if you're asked any questions. Again, as we've touched upon, the source of your funds. If you've taken a loan out, for instance, make sure you know where the loan is from and everything and all the requirements that come with it. You may be judged on your English speaking, so ensure that your English is up to scratch. And if you have any difficulty hearing your interviewer, I think you will be asked at the beginning if you have any difficulties hearing or like the audio. So make sure that you do let them know. Again, think about your education in the past. Make sure there's no, for instance, if you have taken a gap between your education, make sure that you have all the information available to explain what you've been doing. Any immigration history, if you've had any previous refusals for any countries, make sure that you're just honest with the interview. I think that's the main thing, and that you're happy to discuss any gaps in your education and what your future plans may be. Think about your accommodation. If you haven't booked your accommodation yet, you should at least know how you're going to book that and look into it when you arrive, if you haven't already started looking into it already. And if you're bringing any dependents as well, think about what they're going to do when they're here and all that sort of thing. I mean, you should have covered all of these, really, a lot of these in your personal statement. So make sure that you're on top of that and know what you're coming to do. And obviously, it's important to know that depending on the reasons of your previous or current refusal, it may not be possible to sponsor your student visa again. If you do receive a refusal after a credibility interview or at any point, let us know as soon as you can. For instance, if you receive a refusal and we're still able to sponsor you, the whole process, the turnaround process, will need to be as quick as possible. So just get in touch with us as soon as possible, really. Anything else on that, Olga, the interviews?
No, thank you.
Okay, next slide, please, Alex. Conscious that we're running out of a bit of time. So dependents. So as you're probably all aware, the dependent situation has changed in the last few years. And some of you may not be allowed, well, a lot of you probably won't be eligible to bring dependents with you, or at least for your dependents to apply to join you, because there's obviously no guarantee that even that just because you get your visa accepted, that your dependents would get theirs accepted. So the dependents under current rules can join you in the UK as student visa dependents if you are a government sponsored student and your course is 6 months or longer, or if you're eligible masters by research, or you're an eligible masters by research student and your course is 9 months or longer, or you're a PhD student and your course is 9 months or longer. I think the main one that people get confused about is the masters by research. So this isn't just a standard master's course. And on top of that, just because your master's course has research in it, it doesn't mean it's a master's by research course. I've seen a few, and if I'm honest, I can't think off the top of my head which ones, but I know there are a few courses that have the word research in them, but they aren't a research-based course. So your master's by research course will be a 2-year course. It will be a 1-year standard course with a 1-year writing up period. There are also master's by thesis courses which are research-based courses, which are also a 2-year course, and these do allow you and your dependents to apply to join you at the same time for the duration of your course. PhD students, your courses tend to be 3 to 4 years, depending on that writing up period. So your dependents can apply at the same time as you. Both parents need to apply at the same time if you're applying with children, with some exceptions. Both parents are applying with some, they can join at a later date, but it has to be before the end of your course, and we do say before you finish studying. It's important to know as well, you don't really need to know about this now necessarily, but you can't bring dependents on the graduate route visa. That's important to know. So don't think, right, I won't be able to bring them, but once I finish my course, and if I apply for the graduate route visa, I'll be able to bring my dependents. Then you won't be able to do that. If you are eligible to bring your dependents, you need to bring them whilst you're still studying and not after you've finished and on the graduate route visa. It's important to consider as well the living and accommodation costs that bringing dependents brings you. You'll need, obviously, accommodation suitable for a family or for a couple. If you are bringing children, you'll have to consider any childcare and schooling costs, for instance, uniforms. If your child is nursery or preschool age and you need some help with that, those costs obviously inflate your overall living costs. School uniforms, books, and other expenses, for instance, school travel, if you need a bus to get to school, all these things you've got to consider. And any any dependent fees are also additional to your own fees. I think dependents would be, each dependent needs to provide £680 financial evidence, which is the equivalent of £680 a month for 9 months, which works out at £6,120 each, on top of your own financial evidence of £10,224 per month. Anything else for that, Olga?
Just wanted to mention that immigration rules are subject to change, and what we've covered today, if there are any changes between now and the day you're to apply for your to submit your visa application, there might be slight changes with dependents as well. I think the changes are in the pipeline. So if your dependents don't apply with, if you're eligible, if your dependents are eligible to apply with you now because you're starting a PhD or Masters by Research course in September, if they don't apply with you now and decide to apply later at a later date, they will be subject to the new immigration rules. And at the moment, we don't know whether, I know that the government are looking to introduce English language requirements for dependents, but whether they're going to be restricting them even further, we're not sure yet. But you can always contact us late in the date if you have any questions about that.
Yeah, and similarly, if, for instance, your course does have the word research in, but you're not sure if it's a research-based course, feel free to email us and we'll get back to you as soon as possible with clarification if your dependents are eligible to apply to join you. Next slide, please, Alex. So yeah, so now we're coming to the end of the webinar. So these are just some useful links. Again, whether you want to take a screen grab or just make some notes of these will be sent out at a later date with the slides like Alex mentioned at the beginning of the webinar. So don't panic if you don't. But just tuition fee deposit. That link will take you to the information on your tuition fee deposit and everything that comes with it, including any information on refund if that is something that you want to look at in the future. Undergraduate and postgraduate fees, information on that. Visa and immigration, that link will take you to our website, which gives you a lot more information and more in-depth information on the application process. But again, you can contact us at any point. UKESA, now UKESA is the UK Charity for International Students Association, and they are very good. We work alongside them, we work within their rules, and I'd recommend, if there's any link that you take that one and save it, and they provide lots of information. Their website's very good, very useful, and we use them a lot, and they've got a lot of up-to-date information, and you can sign up to emails that will keep you updated on any immigration rule changes and anything that happens within the UK government. Again, the .gov website is very good for a student visa overview. That link there will take you and give you all the information you need to know for your application process. Again, there's the .gov website financial evidence, gives you another breakdown of what we've gone through and some bullet points of what you need. The pay for your healthcare as part of your immigration, how much you need to pay. Again, that gives you a breakdown on your IHS fees. And then again, UKESA, International Student Advice and Guidance for Housing. So again, I'd recommend looking at that one before you start looking at accommodation. It will help you give information you need, and they use a lot of information. They have a lot of volunteers, people that are currently international students or were previously. So yeah, always good to look at UKESA. Anything else, Olga? I think we're about to run out of time anyway.
I just want to emphasize that please read the tuition fee deposit policy, university's policy. Your deposit is non-refundable. So you need to be absolutely sure that you want to study with us, that there are only few exceptions when deposit could be refunded if things go kind of, if there is a problem and you cannot kind of come and study with us. So it's very, very important that you are aware of it. The link to that should also be in your offer letter, but you can't find in your offer letter. Please follow it in these slides and make sure that you're familiar with it. And thank you so much for your patience and for choosing to study with us. And we're hoping to see you all in September.
Yep, definitely. And when you do see us again, it won't be as information heavy. We'll greet you with lots of smiles and thank you for coming. Next slide, please, Alex. I think it is just yeah, what should I do next? So as we've touched upon, immigration rules and university policies are always subject to change. So ensure that you're keeping up to date, ensure your documents meet UKVI requirements and apply as soon as possible. If need be, consider priority or super priority services to increase your chances of getting here faster, because UKVI occasionally needs to undertake further checks and can't process your application within that priority zone. But if they can't, I think you do tend to get that money refunded, or at least you can apply for that money to be refunded. Check universities' policies on tuition deposit, as Olga said. Read immigration rules, keep up to date. Again, that UK's website is very good for that. Keep up to date with that and engage with ourselves and admissions. If we email you, keep on top of your emails, make sure you've got access to them. For instance, speak to your agents if you've got agents, ensure that you can get on top of anything. If you need to contact us, you can raise an immigration inquiry in the Hull portal if you've got access. If you don't have access yet, you can email cass@hull.ac.uk. Anything else, Olga?
If you haven't answered any of your questions, really sorry, please email us or contact us via portal with as many details as possible, your student ID number and the specific inquiry as well. Sometimes we receive email from a personal email address that we cannot recognize the name or the student ID number, and so it's very difficult to answer the question when we don't have all the details. So please make it easier for you and for us to guide you.
Yeah, perfect. And next slide, please, Alex. Thank you. There you go. Thank you very much for joining us today. Sorry if it was a lot of information heavy, but it is important and it's vital. And any questions, like Olga says, just let us know. We will not ignore you. We will get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, John. Thank you, Olga. That was a really informative presentation, as always, and you've answered so many of the questions that have been placed in the Q&A function. So thank you very much for your time today. Thank you also to our audience for joining us. Hopefully, we've been able to answer as many of your questions as we can, but we do always know that student visa applications are a fluid process, so please do feel free, if you do have questions after today's webinar, to send those through to the team and they'll be happy to help you. Thank you for your time today. We really hope that we're able to meet you in September. It sounds like from what we've looked at, many students are already in a position to receive their CAS, so that's brilliant. So well done to those students in that position already. But we will be returning in June and July as well with further visa webinars. So if in the meantime you've got any further questions, please do feel free to sign up for those webinars. You will also receive a recording of today's webinar via email, as well as the presentation slides. And I would just like to reiterate what John and Olga have already said. We really look forward to meeting you in September. But in the meantime, if you've got any questions, feel free to send those through, and have a good rest of your day. Thank you, John. Thank you, Olga. And
No
we
worries,
will
thank
see
you.
you guys soon.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.
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 Bye.